Broadcasting live from the east side of Los Angeles, worldwide, OGHuskyRadio.com. Special guests every week. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Emerald, also known as Echo.
Emerald or Echo? Which came first?
Emerald.
Emerald. I don't get too much into that. EmeraldArtStudio.com, Instagram at EmeraldArtStudio. What can they find at EmeraldArtStudio.com?
They can find photos of my paintings, my murals, my graffiti, my sculptures, a blog, a listing of shows that I've been in, artists that I like, stuff like that.
Well, are you an artist? Are you a graffiti artist, painter, sculptor, all of the above? What?
Yeah, all of the above. I just call myself an artist. Everything falls into that category.
What came first, art or graffiti for you?
Graffiti.
How so? Explain it.
I got put onto graffiti when I was 8 years old by my oldest brother, and I started writing when I was 15, and that was way before I ever started making paintings.
EmeraldArtStudio.com. So, 15 years old, and then who gave you the name?
Echo?
Yeah.
I was doing homework for my English class, and I was, one of the words was echolalia, which the root of it was coming from the word echo, which has like a whole meaning in Greek mythology, and it was in the list of letters that I liked. So that's how I chose the tag.
On the website, so you have and where do the sculptures come from, though? Like, how did
a lot of the sculptures are used spray cans that I use to paint illegal graffiti, and I'll turn them into other stuff that are kind of statements on graffiti.
You also
scenarios.
You also started a blog.
Yeah, I started a blog recently to discuss stuff that I think is important in the world.
What's important in the world?
Veganism, feminism, taking care of the environment, just the way we relate to people, the way we take care of ourselves, stuff like that. I just started it, so I haven't even gotten into the depth of how far it's going to go.
Doesn't aerosol destroy the ozone, or that was a faux, that was fake?
It really does, actually.
Yeah, so how do you balance that if you're trying to save the world and yet the utensils you use are destroying it?
I use a lot more acrylic paint.
Damn, you got me, huh? Trying to be devil's advocate.
I use a lot more water-based, environmentally friendly stuff.
But how come it?
And I also recycle the cans.
Yeah. Well, let them know when you recycle. What some of the stuff you've done with the recycled cans.
I've made chandeliers. I've made high heels. I made an altar with candles. I filled a shopping cart with empty cans that may or may not have been pushed out in the in the way that it's arranged.
double meaning, for those that really got it.
It tells a story.
If even with your blog is like world issues, but I was talking to you off there, like graffiti is real egotistical.
Yes.
Like it's all about me. So then how does that transition go from the graffiti side to now it's a world issue, when if it's just I'm writing my name, I want everybody to know who I am or whatever, my work?
Well, in my journey as a person, I realized more of what led me to graffiti and what led all my other graffiti colleagues to do what we do, and it's bigger than that. It's about finding an identity. It's about finding a place for ourselves in the world, and it's also self-destructive. It's a lot of people who've come from bad shit, and we find a way to punish ourselves. And so graffiti is egotistical, but it's basically the way we found ourselves and defined ourselves. So it's not so much a negative thing. For a lot of us, it was the way we survived.
OGHuskyRadio.com, EmeraldArtStudio.com. Oh, so then from the self-destructive phase, it's actually probably still continuing, but at what point do you say, like, you know what, I gotta change this up, I gotta start not necessarily monetizing, but actually putting artwork out there? What changed it for you?
So my best friend Oil died in 2009, and I got sat down by a few OGs in New York City that kind of gave me a talking to about, you know, you can keep dedicating your life to the streets and not putting your intellect, like you could be a rocket scientist, but you're here getting up next to a bunch of alcoholics and drug addicts and all these people who aren't necessarily going anywhere, and you could be. And so they kind of checked me, and took me a while to kind of break myself of the habit of going out and writing every night, and it's still easy to fall back into, but it took me years to stop being self-destructive. And there's so many ways that we as self-destructive artists can find ways to fuck up our futures unknowingly, and so it's an ongoing process.
Unknowingly or knowingly though?
Unknowingly,
no?
because some of us, it's so far deep into our instinct that it takes a lot. It takes a lot to question.
Why do you do it?
Why do I do graffiti?
Yeah.
Or why?
You personally, like what is it? Because at what, 8 years old, 15 you started?
It's so much of who I am. It's like more than 2/3 of my life, and it's fun. It's fun. It just kind of I have a certain feeling and nostalgia associated to it, and it's something that naturally comes out of my hand. It comes out of my arm.
Will you ever stop?
I don't think so. I don't want to.
You don't want to.
Just
not as much as you would like to, because I mean, life is life.
No, it changes with the pace of my life, and I feel like I don't need to go. Like, you don't need to bloom every day. Like, flowers don't bloom every day, so I don't need to go crazy hard like I did in my teens and 20s every day. But the longevity is, you're always probably gonna see something from me.
You've been active
I'm an old
in
lady.
A lot of places. We'll just say that, for lack of a better term. But one of the places you've been is out here in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, compared to the rest of the places you've painted, which have actually been different states, countries for that matter, which is the best spot for graffiti, in your opinion?
The best place for graffiti?
Yeah.
In this day and age, right now, 2018?
Yeah. Well, do 2018 and I don't know, and 97 if you want. I don't know which is random. But let's talk 2018 right now.
2018, what I think the best place for graffiti is probably Berlin, because the trains run. It's like what New York was in like the golden age of the streets, of like everybody street bombing. Like all the best writers in Europe and from the world are probably going out there, and it's running. And it's like dope. It's like a city landscape.
You do realize you're in Los Angeles though, right? You didn't like give us props and shit.
I love Los Angeles. What I love about LA is the diversity here, and there's so many crews, and there's so many writers, and so many active writers that it's easy to get just completely covered and disappear. And so people to make a name here have to be active as fuck. And
damn,
keep going.
that's a quotable right there and shit.
Right?
Yeah, it's true though.
And so I definitely got discouraged from painting here as much as I was when I first got here, because of the buff. So like I give props to the people who've been doing for years and years and years, and there are some that we all know, we see them. And
it's a trip though too, because there might be people that are just starting into it, and they think that like, oh, that guy's starting too, and like you have no clue. Like
they think there's somebody they've been painting for 3 years, and they've got a few spots running. It's
like, oh, this guy's at the same spots I am. Nah, man. Some real shit. Yeah. EmeraldArtStudio.com, Instagram at Emerald Art Studio. One of the things I wanted to talk a lot about is that you're able to trademark. I'll let you tell your tag and your throw up.
Yeah, I trademarked my tag and my throw up.
Why?
To protect my artwork. There's an artist in New York that took a photo of a truck that had a tag of mine on it, and he painted it, and then he sold that painting, and then he made prints of the painting, and he was signing prints of the painting of my tag and other people's tag too, and other people's throw-ups and stuff like that, and it just didn't seem right to me. And I wanted to establish graffiti as my graffiti is my intellectual property, so that can't happen again.
How hard is the process when it comes to trademarking? Like for people, I mean,
It's
highly
not very
recommend it.
hard.
I mean, but like, what's the simplest way, or where can they start?
So you go to the United States Patent Trademark Office website, and you just have to read.
Damn.
It's a lot of language on the website, and not an easy way to consume. They tell you that you can either choose to go to a lawyer, and the lawyers will charge you like $10,000, or you could do it yourself for like $325. And you just have to read. You have to figure out which boxes to click, and there's an inventor's helpline that you can call, or that will help you figure out somewhat what you need to do for the trademark, and if you wanted to patent a design, for instance. There's people that you can call. It's a lot of like really, really old people that are very but
helpful.
They are helpful, and they'll take the time, and you just have to slow down and read it. And if you don't understand, look up the word in the dictionary and figure it out. Or if you had the money, go through a lawyer and do all that, but it's not difficult to do it yourself. I did it myself, and I got both of them approved.
EmeraldArtStudio.com. Just for that already, y'all sign up to anything she has going on, just for putting up on game like that. But there's an Patreon, Patreon.com. That's something you're working with right now too, or you're involved? You have something? Can you explain?
It's an app, and it's a website that's for creators, musicians, artists, photographers, people who are making stuff that their fans and their patrons can subscribe to their feed, kind of like how Instagram does, but it's behind a paywall, like a subscription, where you're supporting the people to make their art every month, rather than them creating content for free for Instagram and Facebook to monetize, and a bunch of investors nobody's ever heard of or met to keep getting richer. We can support each other through this platform, and it's definitely going. It's got some kinks. It's not as doesn't have the same user experience as Instagram, but it's worth it for me to make the transition, even if I've only got a few people to start. But
Emerald Art Studio. So just look it up at patreon.com/Emerald Art Studio. You're available for custom work, murals. What else?
So I make custom paintings. I do model trains, murals, indoor, outside, all kinds of stuff.
Go ahead and hit her up. Is graffiti political?
It can be, absolutely.
How can it be?
Well, dealing with other graffiti writers is definitely, there's a politics to it, and who this person's associated with, who do they paint with, who do they have problems with, do they have problems with my friends, I end up in an art show with somebody who's got problems with somebody I know, and are they going to be there, and all of that.
So it's that's drama though, but
it's the politics too, and it's the people that I know that I have to go say hi to. And
are you anti anything? Because I mean, you are graffiti. Graffiti is an anti-act.
What I don't like is anything that isolates women from the rest of graffiti, because I feel like it's kind of sets us back. I think that we need to be in the same we're in the same graffiti scene as the rest of the graffiti writers, and isolating ourselves kind of makes it like, for lack of a better explanation, like a Special Olympics. Like, we'll judge them because they're females, and that gets put in that little category, but the rest of the graffiti is over here.
In your art, you do feature feminist statements too, though. I'm gonna say most people, including females, it'll go over their head though. They won't even really understand the concept, or even like you said earlier, the shopping cart with the cans, to understand what, like, oh, that's just a cool. But do you, knowing that most people won't understand the statements you're trying to make, who do you make it for then?
I have to make it to express myself, and when people do ask me, or when there is an opportunity to tell the story, you do see the face change, and you do see people light up, and you see them learn something. And I also am planning to use my blog for that opportunity to explain a little bit more, just stories of my life, or stories that influence my artwork, and concepts that influence my artwork, like feminist concepts.
What's the best experience you've had through your art endeavors?
That's a good question.
So far?
Being here.
There you go. That was the LA. That was the LA kiss up and shit. Nah, you should have said LA had the best graph. That would have been a better one. But is there any? Do you, as an artist, do you have some pieces that you won't sell?
Yeah, there's 2 pieces I actually have in my bedroom that I won't sell.
And why? I always just wonder that because people always, every artist has that.
One is the first throw up I ever did on a canvas. And I don't know why, I just like it. It's just mine. And then it's one of the sexual paintings that I've done that is, for a while I did try to sell it, and then I liked it so much I don't want to get rid of it, so it's in my bedroom and it's mine.
But everything else,
Yeah,
emeraldartstudio.com.
Yeah, a lot of artwork for sale on my Instagram.
How'd the sculpting come about, though? I mean, you take classes or training?
No,
or?
so I started working with a resin sculptor in San Pedro, Eric Johnson, who's he's probably his late 60s. He's comes from the light and space movement with like Dwayne Valentine and these famous resin sculptors. And I was assisting him in his studio, and I learned how to work with resin. And I started thinking of just clever ways of how I can arrange my used spray crayons to become other stuff. So first I started incorporating them into paintings, and then I started just making standalone sculptures with them.
Have you ever had any formal art?
I did 1 month of a pre-college art program in New York City when I was 17. I went to live there for a month by myself, and I was into graffiti at the time, and I was just like overwhelmed. I tried to catch some tags, and within a day there was like toy written in, like scribed into my marker tags. And I in Pratt is an art school there, and I learned how to like basic drawing and painting, but I wasn't very good at it, and I felt like it was too much pressure for me to make art on demand, so I didn't continue with art school. And then 10 years later, I decided I liked it again.
There it is, ogskiradio.com, emeraldartstudio.com. Just log on, all the links are in there. I want to thank you for coming through and sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so cool.
Oh, good looking. Now, any shout outs before we cut out?
Shout out to Oil Poke, Next, homie 3XL just passed away, Kool-Aid, Russia, OTR just passed away, just to all the homies that passed away. It's been a sad few years, and it's an epidemic in our community that people just keep dying young of whatever cause. We live very risky lives, and just want to send a lot of love to everybody.
OGSQ Radio. Stay posted, more interviews to come.